when he's coaching in Qatar, he gets like 20 people, half of whom are paid to be there watching his games. I mean, Sid, this is extraordinary. This is the work that he has done is, I think, simply extraordinary.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think as well that we've heard from Xavi all the talk about style and philosophy and so on, which you always get with Xavi, and you always got it with him as a player as well as a manager. But I actually think that one of the biggest things he's changed is the culture. And the culture of competitiveness, seriousness, work, but making players want to train. So introducing an element of enjoyment to it as well, of kind of, if you like, clearing the air of the place and making it feel like a place that people want to be and involving people in it. He said something that I really liked last night, Xavi. Now, I know, look, this is just a phrase and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think it was a good way of putting it. He said, it's just a pity that I couldn't make more changes tonight, because this was a game that everyone should have been able to enjoy. That everyone should have been on the pitch to play a part in. And I think that's part of it, that attempt, which is very difficult, I think, to make everybody feel like a participant. And for example, you get that moment last weekend when Ricky Puig came on and played very well. And he said, look, I'm not getting the chances that I want and I'm not happy, but I appreciate that the manager is trying to give me those opportunities and trying to work through this. And I think there is just a culture of effort, of being competitive, of being aware of what this means, which for one reason or another, or for a whole series of reasons, possibly wasn't really there before.
I mean, the contrast with before is incredible. We've always said, though, the three of us, that it's still a very talented squad.
Yes, we have.
We have always said at the start of the season, we said we looked line by line and we said there's a lot of talent there. The problem before was there was no structure, or certainly not enough structure, not enough identity maybe on the way you want to play and the way you should be playing. And I think Sid makes such a good point on the spirit around the team. I mean, the Dutch guy is not really good at managing players. He's never been through his whole career. He didn't start at Barcelona. With Xavi, I think, has the charisma to start with and everything that, so especially with a young team, especially with a young squad, that makes the difference.
That's what I find remarkable is also, we talk about the squad, but we're talking about working with individuals, right? We know Pedri's supremely talented. Well, Pedri ran himself into the ground, was injured, comes back. The guy is so young. There's bound to be an element of doubt. Okay, I'm coming back now after months away. Am I going to be as good? Can the manager give me the confidence to show that? Eric Garcia, who, we talk about all this talent. I don't think Eric Garcia is good at all, frankly.
No.
And yet, he can turn him into a serviceable player in this. And while the word philosophy gets overused to the point that I think sometimes it's almost meaningless, what I like about it is he manages to sell us and have everybody believing that this is old-style Barcelona. But I also saw some big differences. Because if you play Araujo at right back, and he was playing Araujo really to contrast Vinicius, right? The single biggest threat that was out there after Modric was...
And that was made easier by the fact that Benzema wasn't there.
Obviously.
Otherwise, I think there's a doubt with him to put Araujo centrally for Benzema.
It's entirely possible that he would have done that. But that's not an old-school Barcelona move. That is a more modern view on the take. I don't remember Pep Guardiola.
He's pragmatic as well.
Well, I know it's fine, but I don't remember Pep Guardiola being particularly pragmatic in the Barcelona context. Now, of course, he overthinks and outthinks himself, right? So for me, that's remarkable. We talk about, Sid, when he first took over, correct me if I'm wrong here, right? He talked about the importance of the wingers and the wingers staying wide and whatever, right? Now, in this evolution, you have two wingers in Ferran Torres and Dembele, who play the game completely differently, especially last night. Ferran Torres coming inside, allowing Alba to overlap, or staying outside. Ferran Torres and Jordi Alba seem to kind of play in unison, I thought, in this game, which is the way it should be, but it's not something you take for granted. He's a much different type of winger than Dembele, who stayed on the outside a lot of the times. Tries to,
But also because Araujo is never going to overlap and cross the ball.
But there is a variety. It's almost like he's managed to sell everybody on the Barcelona identity, maintain, obviously, the Barcelona identity, but also modernize things, which I think he has to do because, well, the squad may be talented. We agree it's very much an imperfect squad. Right, Sid?
Yeah, look, I mean, with Ferran, by the way, I don't know about you, but I see certain parallels with David Villa there, which is a guy theoretically playing on the left who's really a forward, who's who's playing on the left as a if you like, a starting point, making those horizontal runs or diagonal runs into the penalty area and arriving rather than going outside. Whereas on the other side of the pitch, Dembélé, because he's two-footed, he can go both ways, but he still tends to want to go outside. And when he comes inside, it's to take a shot. And I think Dembélé's been very important for them. And I think you're right, there are tweaks that are different. Araujo was a very, very clear example of that yesterday. Dani Alves has been really important to Xavi. And Xavi has made the point that he even felt disappointed that at the decision he'd made to leave Dani Alves out of the Europa League squad, because he felt that, okay, I've got some cover at right back, I've got Serginho Dest, I've got Araujo, I'd much rather have these other guys at the top of the pitch, that extra player, which obviously it would have been Adama had it not been Dani Alves that's left out of the squad. Now, of course, with Dembélé playing this well, he needs Adama probably slightly less than he thought he would. Because, of course, we didn't know how the Dembélé situation was going to play out. And I must confess, I think if they had known Dembélé was going to stay, I don't think they'd have signed Adama Traoré. I think that was partly about putting pressure on Dembélé and having a replacement. But you're right, there's these little tweaks of, I suppose, pragmatism all over the pitch. One thing I would say, though, is that I think there were times when Guardiola was more pragmatic than we sometimes remember. I think we can sometimes fall into the trap of over-romanticising. So, for example, I was saying earlier, that last night there was a lot of them playing the quick early ball beyond the Madrid defence. You look back on that 6-2, the importance of Thierry Henry running beyond Sergio Ramos at right back, released relatively early, was really, really significant in that victory. You look back at the role, admittedly, it wasn't an automatic first choice role, but the really quite regular participation of someone like Seydou Keita with Guardiola. And I think there you do see those little touches of pragmatism that perhaps we've forgotten with time. Because, of course, over the mists of time, you cling to the purity of what happened, and maybe you don't always see the pragmatism. And I think one of the things that is really important here as well is that both Guardiola and Xavi, for all the romanticism, you've used the word of philosophy and said it's a problematic word, and I agree with you completely. But for all the philosophy, for all the romanticism, there's a pragmatism, and in particular a competitiveness about both of those men, which I think is really important that we don't overlook it.
This game, by the way, resembles a lot the 6-2 that Sid just mentioned in 2009, in terms of a turning point, in terms of, we're coming now. And, this is a Clasico that Barca hadn't won in 7 or 8, Sid, for 5 years or something like that?
5 defeats in a row,
exactly.
And 6 without a win.
And I think he really felt a bit like similar to 2009 and that 6-2 win.
I appreciate the history lesson, old man here, but we're losing our younger demographic if you keep bringing up...
No, it's true.
I know, I'm old. I remember that game very well.
And to be fair, I think Real Madrid and Carlo...
I was going to go even older for you. And apologies for this. There's
so 1974, the Manita?
No. There's another parallel which I think is significant. And that is Barcelona's 2-1 win over Real Madrid in 2004, which Xavi played in and Xavi scored. And that was Barcelona winning towards the end of the season, where deep down we all knew it was a little bit too late for Barca to win the league. Now, as it turned out, they did overhaul Real Madrid, but Valencia won the league. But at that point, even with that win, and you think Barcelona might be in the title race, but we all thought it was a little bit too late. But what it really was a marker that said Barca have been really good the second half of the season. And next year, they're going to be a good team. Right. And I think that's where the parallel here really lies. This isn't about can Barca win the league now, because last night they were all saying, well, look, if the chance comes, we'll be ready for it. Right. But let's face it, it's not going to happen. No. But what this does suggest is that next season, Barcelona are candidates to win the league again.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.